I can start now? Oh, there it is, red. Okay. All right, and call to order. Noeowin Naomi Bailey. Namiwidin otas nenemo aske mina ota meti kwagitwal. Ni ya miwidin ota wiginan sagitin kiskiomowin ota aski. My name is Naomi Bailey. I want to acknowledge I'm on the traditional unceded territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. This is also the chosen home of the Métis people. I am honored to be able to live, love, and learn on their land. So starting off, are there any additions, deletions, or change in order to the agenda? If no, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Madam Chair, I have a notice of motion.
Yes.
I have a notice of motion
Okay.
for the end of, to add to the agenda at the end.
New business then?
I guess it'll be new business. Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. All right, so can I have we're adding Trustee Robinson's motion to new business. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as it's been altered? Amended, thank you. Greg, Trustee Keller, Leanne Lee will second it. Thank you. Just a reminder to anyone who has questions, if you could indicate in the chat, and I usually try to follow the chat. It's the easiest way for me to be able to see what people are doing. I'm wanting to talk, sorry. Approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 1st, 2023 meeting? Thank you, Chantal Morvay. Trustee Morvay has approved it, and then we'll have Mark Robinson second it. Thank you. Next up, we have presentations. And it doesn't look like we have any on the list. So we have senior staff reports, and I'm going to turn this over to Deputy Superintendent Laura Tate, who will begin 8.1, which is Department of Learning Services. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just start by introducing, switch the order around a little bit inside 8.1, and we'll start with Director of Instruction, Nicole Davey, who's going to share with us a Learning Services report around one of our board goals. So welcome, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here to share what our district has been doing to be leaders in environmental stewardship and sustainability. And a big thank you to Dawn, who is going to be helping me with my slides. So next slide, please. The Environmental Stewardship Action Plan puts into action the board's strategic goal of being a leader in environmental stewardship and sustainability, and will impact all areas of the district, from teaching and learning to reconciliation to infrastructure. It's ambitious, thoughtful, and comprehensive, and puts our values into action, recognizing the importance of responding to issues of sustainability and the environment, guided by Indigenous understandings and the CXIS framework. So this was created last year, and many of you are familiar with this document. So our goal this year is to share the plan broadly with school leaders with the intention of highlighting this work as a priority and having schools amplify this work as part of their school plans. Another goal moving forward is to build on the work that is already happening in schools as part of the curriculum, in particular in the Earth Science and Biology K-12 curriculum, through inquiries and partnerships with community groups and extracurricular clubs. And I'd like to highlight some of the promising practice that is happening throughout our district. Next slide, please. So first of all, our district has created the Zero Waste Project. Zero Waste aims to reduce and eliminate garbage through reuse, repair, and recycling. Discarded materials will become resources that can continue to be used. As part of the project, schools receive enough 4-part recycling and waste stations with district signage for the hallways and recycling and compost containers for the classrooms. 6 schools are involved this year, and our goal is to increase the number of schools each year. And this is in partnership with facilities, schools, and led by learning coordinators. Next slide, please. So after a successful pilot at Rock City Elementary, NLPS introduced these new sorting stations in the following schools as of September 22nd. So Pleasant Valley, Solaire, Mountain View, Seaview, Georgia, Forest Park, and NDSS. Next slide, please. So another exciting and successful initiative is our partnership with the Regional District of Nanaimo. So NLPS is in year 3 of our partnership with the RDN. And this project utilizes a spiral of inquiry approach to look at changing practice in relationship to environmental stewardship. This project started with 4 schools 3 years ago and has grown to include 10 schools this year. And again, our goal is to increase the number of schools each year. So participating classroom teachers are looking at ways to provide educational opportunities for their students to gain a holistic understanding of stewardship and the interconnectedness of our actions with the environment. Incorporating Indigenous understandings will be an important part of this work, and our learning coordinators are also able to support schools with accessing resources and connecting with guest speakers. We know kids learn best when their hearts, minds, and bodies are engaged, and this is what the inquiries are able to do. So I just wanted to draw your attention to some of these beautiful pictures. At the top, we have Georgia Elementary, who are in their 2nd year, and their inquiry had them look at data around waste, single-use plastics, often created by school snacks. So they wanted to encourage healthy eating and how to prepare food. And as a way to encourage this, they purchased cutting boards, knives, bowls, and had students prepare healthy snacks by buying local and focus on the reduction of waste. Bottom, we have Mountain View Elementary, a grade 6-7 class that has used this grant to support upcycling projects, like using old jeans to weave a rug, old teacups to make candles, old tins as planters, and reuse bottles to design their own ecosystems with pond water and grasses from the area. And this was a lovely cross-curricular project involving art and science and outdoor learning. They used the grant to purchase an LED light. And students will often create things to sell as part of a fundraiser for their long-term goal of purchasing solar panels for the school. So we are having a celebration of all of these inquiries in May, and you are all invited. So be looking for an invitation in the next couple of months. Next slide, please. So another priority for the district has been growing out our outdoor education programs, focusing on creating learning opportunities for both teachers and students. These are natural connections between earth science, biology, physical education, and Indigenous understandings. And here are some examples. Next slide, please. So as of the 22-23 school year, all secondary schools have outdoor education courses, plus a West Coast Wilderness course at NDSS. And there's release time for mentorship between outdoor ed teachers to support co-teaching opportunities between secondary outdoor ed teachers and elementary school teachers. We recognize the need to build skills and confidence of elementary school teachers taking their students out onto the land. So 50 plus teachers this year, and we had 50 plus teachers last year, were able to receive their Outdoor Council of Canada Level 1 certification. So educators were able to come together to learn with and from each other, collaborating and planning rich and diverse outdoor learning opportunities. Next slide. We also have organized Pro-D sessions that support teachers with land-based approaches to teaching and learning, weaving Indigenous perspectives throughout the curriculum. For example, elementary students are connecting to place and land through exploration outside and learning the local names and traditional uses of plants. Learning coordinators often support these opportunities around land-based learning that include Indigenous perspectives, social studies, science, and even numeracy. And this is an area that continues to be a focus and a priority, and we are excited to build on this good work as we move forward. So thank you very much. And no more slides. Perfect.
Thank you, Nicole. Trustee Bailey, Chair, we have 2 school presentations that focus on environmental sustainability, so we can pause if you choose to have questions specifically for Nicole, or we can have the school presentations and then sort of keep the whole thing together. I think you're still muted.
Thanks for giving that option, Laura. I think it might be better if maybe they could ask questions more specifically about Nicole's presentation now. So if anybody has any questions, please put your in the chat, and then I'll just have a running list. Are there any questions on this wonderful presentation? Nicole, it's really exciting to see all the things that are happening in the high schools and the elementary schools. I love it. So appreciate all the hard work the district's putting towards outdoor education and environmental sustainability. It doesn't look like there's any questions as I rattled on, so maybe we can move Deputy Superintendent to the next presentation.
That's great. Thank you, Chair. I'm going to turn it over to the Assistant Superintendents for the next couple of introductions.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much. I have the pleasure of introducing Kathy Bergman, principal at Mountain View Elementary, and her team. I'll let her introduce her whole team, who will be able to expand on some of the pieces that Nicole actually spoke to in her presentation. So welcome, Kathy and Mountain View team, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much for having us here together. And we're going to share a presentation, and I'm getting feedback, sorry. Moment to pull it up. Okay, can you see our presentation? Sorry, my apologies. There we go. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So we'd like to take a moment before we start and acknowledge that we're so honored, and it's with respect and humility that we are able to learn here at Mountain View on the lands of the Snuneymuxw people. And we're so fortunate as well. In the background of this photo, you see that we look out every day. We're in the watchful eyes of Tutuxton, which is the grandmother of all mountains. And I don't think there's a more fitting place to build inquiring minds and inspire people and energize people. So again, it's with great honor and humility that we're able to learn here at Mountain View. I'd like to take a moment and introduce our team. So our team today joining us is Debbie Keenlyside and Naomi Stussy. And they'll be presenting their work. We've been so fortunate. Again, in the background here, we have a mural that both that team and our leadership group and Spirit group were part of, building sustainability and putting in a mural of Westlandia in the background to represent diversity and the energy of the students that we have here. We feel that our school actions align with the board goal to be a leader in environmental stewardship and sustainability, increasing learning opportunities for our students and staff on climate change and sustainability. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie Keenlyside and Naomi Stussy to talk about the powerful ways that they're inspiring our students.
Hi. Thanks for having us. It's exciting to be here to talk to you all about what we've done here at Mountain View. Yeah, we've been busy. So our first slide is of our leadership team from last year. So in the void that was left from the absence of Me to We, we've established a leadership team that was very keen. That's not all of them that were here last year, but a pretty good chunk of the students that were involved. We mostly had grade 5 to 7 students last year. So that's who we're looking at. So that's our dream team from last year. Because Me to We, it was no longer there to sort of scaffold for what our plans would be. We did a brainstorm session at the beginning of the year, and these are the different avenues that our team wanted to go down. Very ambitious group of humans. So these are all the things that we wanted to do: increasing school spirit, raising money for charity, helping students have positive interactions on the playground, and then also peer education around sustainability, environmental concerns, and things like that. And that environmental theme was overarching for everything else. So everything that we do with our leadership team is under that umbrella of sustainability and environmental stewardship and responsibility.
And we had a very knowledgeable group of people in leadership. So they were very interested in helping the planet, and they were focused on waste management and clean energy. So we thought that we would use their knowledge and have them teach the other students in the school. So we broke them up into teams, and each team visited a different classroom. So all 19 divisions had a presentation done, and often the students created slideshows, and they were there to talk about managing waste effectively, saving energy, letting students know some of the issues that are facing our planet, and also providing some empowerment to students on how they could make a difference.
One of the activities that we did last year around Valentine's Day, kind of leading into Love Your Planet kind of idea, was a garbage cleanup bingo. So to encourage classes and students even individually to go onto the playground in our school grounds and do a big cleanup. We were looking for different types of garbage, and we found them all. How fantastic
for everyone. And then whoever had the full bingo card and collected the most garbage won a fabulous prize.
So 2 of our classes engage in outdoor learning every Wednesday. We spend the morning out in the woods, and we decided that we would do a garbage cleanup. We noticed that there was a lot of garbage in our woods, and so over the course of several weeks, we started to get a huge pile, and we talked to the students about the amount that we found, how it was polluting the earth. You know, toxins would leach into the soil. It would be a problem for animals, and the students were quite disgusted by the amount of garbage that they found, and it sort of inspired them to properly recycle in the classroom, and they shared with everyone about what they saw, and that helped sort of get people thinking about where garbage ends up.
Yes, and then it also inspired them to do some tree planting.
Yes, so a parent gave us 100 trees, and we planted them at the end of the school year all through our outdoor classroom.
Yeah, so last year for February 14th, we steered away from romance and steered back towards loving our earth. And so our leadership team organized a Love Your Earth parade that happened on February 14th. Classes were all encouraged to create slogans and chants and posters and make pledges on what they could do to better the environment and help the planet and show their love for planet Earth. So this is one of our adorable participants. Here. Same. Yeah. So this is one of our classes that was part of the part of our parade, and just showing off some of their hard work.
They actually painted the planet Earth on all of their face masks, and then made signs, and it was really fun to see all the chants that they came up with.
Yeah.
One of our really big projects was the Upcycled Craft Fair, mostly because it took almost every day of the school
The
year
whole
to
year?
put together.
Mhm.
And so we spent weeks organizing what would be other people's garbage into treasures. So we wanted to show that material could be upcycled and reused. And so here you can see students cutting down old candles, and then they melted the wax and we poured them into teacups that had been donated to us. And then we created other objects as well. And then we sold them all at a craft fair. And the idea was to teach students who came to the fair and community members that you can reduce energy, you can stop the volume of landfills, reduce what's going into landfills, help with air and water pollution, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and preserve natural resources for the future if you reuse items that still have value. And
One back. Yeah.
that's okay. And this is these are just some of the items that we sold. So in the top left-hand corner, we made jean bracelets using the seam of jeans, and then the students sewed glass beads on top. And then in the middle, we took some cans that just had spaghetti sauce and things, and we painted those. And also the glass containers that candles came in. We used those and we planted different succulents and spider plants. And then on the right, we took the pocket off of jeans and made pocket purses. And then those are the candles that we finished on the bottom left. And then on the right at the bottom, we made soctopuses out of socks that, you always lose a sock in the dryer. And we had 2 members who were super creative, and those soctopuses were really, really cute.
Yeah, they were hot ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually raised $1,000 at our Upcycled Craft Fair. These are 2 rugs that we made. The first rug, the black and white one, was made out of t-shirts. So you make t-shirt yarn and then you can weave it. And the rug on the right is a rug that's made out of blue jeans. So you just get all different colors and types of blue jeans, and you can weave that. And we raffled those off.
Okay, so this is leadership group for this year. And as you can see, I don't know if you can remember the first picture, it's expanded, and this isn't even everybody that's here. Last year we limited it to grade 5s, and this year we couldn't keep the grade 4s away. They were just so keen. So there's grade 4 to 7 this year, and they're equally keen and excited to continue to make a difference at our school.
So this is one of the big projects that we're working on this year. We're calling it Reveal the Beauty. We divided the leadership students up into groups, and then each group got a canvas. They had to paint a natural scene on the canvas, so mountains or forest. And then we asked classes to collect their single-use plastic. We wanted teachers to show students how much single-use plastic is actually consumed in a week at a school, and the fact that single-use plastic really can't be recycled properly. And so we're going to cover each of the canvases in plastic, the wrappers that you see, and students will have to, and then each classroom will get one of the canvases, and students will have to perform tasks that help benefit the earth. So maybe pick up some garbage or turn out lights or instead of driving, walk to school. And then they'll be able to remove a piece of garbage from their painting. They can also donate money to remove garbage from their painting. And it's sort of a contest to see who can reveal the beauty underneath first.
Yeah. Sorry, there we go. Another project that we're working on this year as a result of some research that Deb did over the summer, her light summer reading about climate change, is that we can help mitigate something like this, as we intuitively know, with planting trees and plants. And so instead of doing the upcycled style craft fair that we did last year, we're shifting it to be plant sales. So we are going to be doing something similar with the cans as last year, painting them, picking a sustainable container and doing house plants as well as garden plants like tomatoes, peppers, those kinds of things. So that's how we are going to be creating more green in our community.
And the reason why we're having some of these sales is we are actually trying to get enough money to either buy solar panels for, you know, a bank of computers so that students can see alternative forms of energy, or to plant trees or clean up plastic to somehow donate to a major environmental group.
Yeah.
So, so we decided that the leadership was having lots of fun and doing lots of things and teaching students, but that we wanted to involve more students in some of the hands-on activities. So we thought if we're asking students to think of alternatives and not use plastic, that we should give them a different plan. So we taught several classes how to make beeswax wraps, and we used different scraps of cloth so that we weren't creating more garbage. We were actually reducing garbage, and the students were amazed at how fast and easy it was. And now the next days you could see them bringing their beeswax wraps in their lunch kits. So it was really good to see. We also decided that it wasn't just students' behavior that needed to change, but teachers had to change the way they were doing things in the classroom as well. So STEAM is a really big, high excitement class for students here at Mountain View, but it does create a lot of waste because we tend to use cardboard and then paint the cardboard so it can no longer be recycled. So thanks to the RDN, we had a grant from the RDN. We were able to buy lots of tools, some saws and drills and hammers. And so we started to teach the kids how to use use the tools to make old-fashioned toys. So this boy has made a penguin walker, we called them, and we made stilts, and we did some thread art. And we also taught them how to use sewing machines that we bought with the RDN grant money. And again, we used scrap fabric, and we wanted to show them that you can make things that you can use for a long time. And when we do projects that use recycled items, we're trying to show them that you can still think about the environment. So we taught them how to make different energy-powered cars. And we are looking at creating environmentally friendly houses this year. So one last thing that we kind of do in my class is to look at ecosystems. So we make an ecosystem in a jar. It's a fully contained ecosystem, so nothing can get in or out. And students learn that plants produce oxygen because we've had these ecosystems for 2 months, and the animals in there are still alive and the plants are still doing well. And we also learn that the plants capture carbon from the atmosphere. We learned that the water will evaporate and then condense and come down as rain so that the plants get water and they continue to grow. And we also learned that we need the oxygen to survive. And if we cut down plants, that's not good for our future. We learned that diversity is important because sometimes the plants don't survive or the animals don't survive because there's not enough food. And we learned that if the food chain gets interrupted, that we can have bad consequences, dire consequences there. So we learned that the earth is kind of a fragile system and that it needs us to take care of it.
All right, so another place that is near and dear to our school's heart is our garden, which we're lucky to have it in our courtyard. Protects it from the deer that way, which is positive. These are garden beds that were built as a STEAM project with some older grades over the last few years, and the rest of the school community gets to be involved in it. It's a fantastic environment and a really great learning opportunity for students to see how and where food can come from. It also is a great opportunity to teach about nutrition and involvement in the students actually tasting things that they probably never would otherwise. Like kids go for kale like you would never. If you brought it home from the grocery store, it's going to sit in your fridge. If you pick it out of your garden at school, it is going to be consumed in an amazing amount. What's happening here is some classes last year used their school garden to create a salad day and try out different dressings and just have that 2-meter diet which is pretty fabulous.
And they learned that you don't have to have plastic wrap snacks to
Mhm.
enjoy a good meal.
And also life cycle of plants as well. We did a lot of seed collection after the plants did their thing. We left a few, so that's sustainable as well. So
Yeah.
we don't have to continuously buy seeds for our garden.
I'd like to end and say thank you.
Kathy, you're muted. You went off and on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
There you go. Sorry about that. I just wanted to say it's with great gratitude to the RDN for their support to Mountain View in the last few years, and to the district. It's been amazing to just give us that catalyst to move, and most of all to our staff, in particular to Deb and Naomi, for all their visionary work, their boundless energy and enthusiasm. And lastly, I can't say it isn't without the gratitude towards our students, because we know that our world is not going to be sustainable unless we inspire them, build their minds, co-create with them, and let them really appreciate it. And you can see that by their smiles. So thanks again for having us here tonight.
Thank
And
you.
we're done.
Thank you so much, Deb, Naomi, and Kathy. And Kathy, all these projects are, the work that your staff have done is incredible, but it can't work without the support of their administrator as well. So I know how good you are. So thank you very much, you guys. All these different projects you've done is just amazing. I have one question, and then I see Tanya has a question as well. My question was about your uncycled crafts. I was wondering, like, where do you get all the materials from that? Because I have a whole bunch of like candles, when they don't look pretty anymore, I kind of put them aside. So I was just wondering if you like put it out there to people to donate or.
Hi, we actually put it in a newsletter asking for donations of what we wanted. So we asked for candles, and we asked for jeans, and we asked for different items like that.
And t-shirts.
And t-shirts.
Yeah.
We ended up getting way more than we actually could use, and it actually became quite a problem. I think I still have a couple boxes of things in my room, and then I couldn't find stuff when we needed it. So that there's so much junk out there. If you put it on ask in a newsletter or a letter, you're going to get everything that you need.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's wonderful. I just one follow-up comment just was you mentioned, getting the students to understand the earth is fragile and needs to be protected. And, example of that is today I have a friend that is working in Hollywood, and it's snowing there.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, Anyways, we do have a couple of people that have put in the chat that they have questions, and the first is Trustee Brozovic.
Thank you. Wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Looking forward to coming by the school either before spring break, hopefully, and or after, to just take a look and meet some of the kids and hear more. My question is, I was going to ask this for the secondary as well, but I couldn't figure out how to word it. I guess it's a two-parter. What do you see as the greatest challenge right now to offering this kind of programming? And what would move the needle? What would support you in addressing that challenge?
I think the greatest challenge is just, first of all, to take moments to reflect. I think sometimes we just get so busy doing what we've been doing. So the first challenge is just to stop and really prioritize. And that's what I think our staff has done. And I'm really appreciative of that. And getting the needle moving really was with the support of the RDN and the district to really push us forward. But also, like I said, our staff just stepping on it, Deb doing a lot of research, and then just garnering more and more people around her and building. As we know, if you can just keep getting more and more people on board, and then the courtyard is taking off, the more people are interested with that. So, sometimes I always say small changes make huge differences. So And they're
May
not
I have
small,
a
trust me.
May I
There's
have a
lots
quick
there.
follow-up?
Will you indulge me a quick follow-up, Chair?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Has there been any pushback from people around the whole notion of, oh, climate change isn't real or it's not man-made or? Okay.
Not
would-
really.
yeah.
No,
Good.
I got a little pushback around lunches and trying to reduce maybe some of the
Some
single-use
wrapping.
plastic
Yeah.
wrappers because it's really hard for families to buy food for their children when finances are tough, right? Because often that food is cheap. So that was a little issue, but
Yeah.
mostly kids are really keen to do
Awesome.
something.
That's awesome. And it's working also around the issue of some children having food issues. So there's certain, and you need to respect that if a child has a food issue, then you got to respect that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there's no shaming. We just are educating.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. That was an amazing presentation. Thank you so much. From the STEAM, the garden and the courtyard, the self-contained ecosystem, so beautiful. Thank you. I'd just like to ask a question about the STEAM itself. How often do the kids, say per month, get to do STEAM?
So in my classroom, we do STEAM every Friday. So sometimes it's almost an all-day event. If we start before big recess, then students often don't want to go outside for recess. They just want to keep working on it. And so I often just say, okay. And so it's usually an all-day Friday event. They get very, very involved. And students who typically aren't successful in traditional ways love STEAM and produce amazing things, projects. Yeah. How about you?
My class is not a super STEAmy kind of class. We do lots of stuff in the garden, lots of stuff around plants and growing. I was formerly a school garden coordinator, so that's where my passion lies. So we STEAM in my class maybe once a month. Mind you, I do have a job share, so my other partner does some STEAM as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Trustee Morvay?
Yeah, I had to come on and say hi because these are my people. I am so grateful my child gets to go to that school. I know all schools are amazing, but it's just been a really great experience, and I can attest to that with him coming home and talking about these things as well. Has been a really great experience as well. It sort of reinforces kind of what we've been trying to do as well, and it's really done really respectfully and fantastically, and I thank you for that. My biggest question was, what are you growing this year? What is going to be in the garden this year in the courtyard?
Well, the day before we planted peas, corn salad, spinach, and radishes. So that's what we're starting with. There's kale already out there and broad beans. And we did try winter carrots, but stay tuned.
And we used last year's broad beans to plant this year's broad beans, and they had grown up before the snow. And we also have kale, and turnips were a big hit. They ate the greens in their salad, so we have turnips and some herbs. That's what we grow. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how
Awesome.
it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, crossing fingers. Thank you.
All right, doesn't look like there's any more questions. So going back to Deputy Superintendent Tate. Or for the next presentation, I believe.
Sure, if I could through you.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, I hope they're still on screen, but I did want to add my appreciation to Debbie, Naomi, and oh, hey, there you are. Thanks so much. That was such an impressive presentation, and we as you know, we live in really challenging times, and drought, heat domes, forest fires, atmospheric rivers, all of these events, weather events are becoming quite common, of course. And what else is quite common is climate anxiety. And I know our children suffer from it. I know adults suffer from it. And the best way to combat anxiety, that climate anxiety, is to do something. And you guys are doing something. And so I know that our children benefit greatly, our students benefit greatly from the work you're doing around environmental stewardship and sustainability. So thank you, HiSEPCA. Wonderful presentation. I love the work that's happening at Mountain View, and can't say enough. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, I think there's another school presentation as well. Don, is it you that I turn it over to?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Thank you through the chair. Environmental stewardship and sustainability is such an important goal for the district, and but just as I introduce Dave Travers, the principal of Ladysmith Secondary School, I'm just going to remind trustees that back in January, when we were highlighting some of our outdoor education opportunities, we had Wellington Secondary present, and I know at that time trustees asked about some of the other programs that are out on the land in a good way, and land and language came up from Ladysmith Secondary School. So I will turn it over to Dave Travers and his team for their school presentation.
All right, Hajka, Don Belcom, and HiSEPCA to the Ed Committee for allowing us an opportunity to speak, and also HiSEPCA to Mountain View for solving the mystery of what happens to all my missing socks. So that's always good. Today I am here with an amazing team. We have Tanya Heidelbach, who's our Indigenous culture and support worker. We have Brenda Colruyt, who is our Indigenous teacher. Stephen Epp is our vice principal. We have Bill Taylor, who is one of the founding members of Land and Language-Based Learning, and Bill has put together a video and will be speaking to that. We have Gina Seward, who Utastonaut, who joins us in our school in our second semester. And then we have Utastonaut Mandy Jones. LSS is gifted with an elder in residence, and I can't think of a better way to start a presentation than hearing from our elder. And then once Utastonaut has spoke, I will start the video, and Mr. Taylor will take over. Utastonaut.
Siem the sie ja HiSEPCA konzvitetel te chacha Tamina si snanemoch tamoch. Eten pa hilaki tetlum at nanu kachten siais. Save our sacred planet. Nanu aiten siais. I thank you all for being here today. I'm so happy and honored to share our beautiful work through Land and Language-Based program. Our children, our students work hard to keep our culture and our language alive. And it's through Ladysmith High School who really share this with us. Learning how to be strong together, learning how to walk together, learning to be Natsamatziais. I thank you all for being here today. Haichka, Mr. Taylor.
We're ready. Video time. So we put together a little a video last week. I just walked into the school and then down the hall and then into our land-based work so you can get an idea of what happens. In our foyer, we have the work of Coast Salish master carver Kapaluk, John Marston, and we started this work in 2006, and it is evolving. That is our Yaqualet. The circle in the middle is the spirit of the eagle, the Aitshqualwin, to help us all transform as we undertake our journeys together at our school. This is a little mini Lalem we're building. We're looking into traditional Coast Salish structures and architecture. And here our master weavers, Yatestinot and Yatestinot, have started another big Coast Salish blanket in which our students are working on. And then as we turn around from our foyer, we again see Yaquillet from the back, and the majesty of a part of our team now. Yaquillet is part of our team, helping us, welcoming us all to our journeys in education. And then I sped up this little part going down the school. Here we go, all the way down to our Indigenous Center. And this is what you'd find when hopefully everyone gets the chance to visit. So maybe Yatestinot, you could talk about this weaving that Brenda's doing, and then on the loom for the grad stole.
Brenda has been working, wanting to put we just passed all our baskets that were donated to our program, and so we wanted something nice for them to sit on. So our students are putting together a weaving for our baskets to sit on.
And over here, we're working on a Google Earth place names map. So Halkoomitnum place names, and then we're pinning the place names here and adding stories that we collect from the families of our students. And here you can see Master Weaver Yatestinot watching some young men make rope out of cedar bark. And other Yatestinot, you're coming up next if you want to take over from us, Theekwim.
And here I'm working with a couple of students. One of the students wrote some plays and she's translating it into Halkoomitnum, so it's more powerful and the words come out more powerful for her. And she's able to do the translating on her own. We just gave her our Halkoomitnum dictionary and she can sit there all day and work on it. And here, one of our students is working on a drum. And Yatestinot's pointing at me.
Oh, this is our room it's a wealth of our program. You can see the yarn there, the elk hide, the old growth cedar, and it's all in process with our students every day. And then you can see way down the hall, back to the beginning where we came from. And that is our tour. Do you have any words for us to finish off, Yatestinot?
Hi, Tapka. It's in Tahiluki. Imitato. Our goal and our dream is to educate as many people as we can about the Coast Salish people, our traditional ways of teaching, our traditional way of learning, and through the help of the school district and Ladysmith Secondary, we're opening the doors for many of our students to show the gifts that they carry. A lot of them come out with beautiful gifts of storytelling, of making their own drums, weaving, and so I'm so grateful that we're here and we're opening doors for a lot of our students with opening the doors of learning more about their own culture, their own traditions, and not to be backwards about it. They're very proud of who they are and where they come from when they start opening up and using their gifts that they carry. Hi, Tapka.
Hi, Sepka, to our team, and as I see some of the comments in the chat, absolutely come visit Ladysmith Secondary. If you think it's stunning in a video, well, you got to think of an even better word than stunning when you actually walk into our Indigenous Center and you see our students. And And just to comment on, Trustee Brezowek, your question, where do we go from here? Our school is already just utilizing the Indigenous Center. It is becoming the heart of our school. Many classes will, whether it's a socials or a science class, will come down into the Indigenous Center and sit in the circle and learn and hear an elder. We have our elder come into to different classrooms. She looks very great in a lab coat with safety goggles on. So it's infectious what's happening at Ladysmith Secondary as it spreads throughout the entire school, and you'll even notice that so many of our students are speaking Halkomenum and showing the respect that the land and the language deserve. So thank you for this opportunity to share.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Trustee Rokeby, you have a question? Oh, we can't hear you, Tom. No.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Mr. Rokeby.
There he is.
How's that?
There you
Yeah.
are.
There you are. Oh, no, it's not working again, Tom. Can you put your question in the chat maybe, and then I can read it out?
Can you hear me now in the general?
Now,
mic?
yeah.
Okay, sorry. I hardly a question. I'll get to the question eventually once I gush for a while. So through you, Chair, to Bill, Mandy, Dave. First of all, it's wonderful to see you all, and it's just so wonderful to see that the great work I knew you were doing as colleagues is continuing on. Mandy, I have a very special place for your work because the first time I was ever asked to step into an SD68 classroom, it was to go and sit and watch you and Jerry do your masterful work teaching language. That was more than 20 years ago, and I'm just so, I don't know, mind blown about what you've been able to do in this time. Without just gushing, I'll just try to get to the root of it. If we were trying to do this in other schools, what advice would you give us? This is a beautiful thing, and I'm sure it's got a lot of moving parts. I see the result of local relationships. I see the result of, community beyond Ladysmith getting involved in it. And I also just see years of dedication from the both of you. So trying to give us small steps, how would you do this somewhere else? Thank you.
Did you see my hand?
Well, I think you're right. It's about building community over time. It's about listening. It's about honoring. It's about working together and walking together, building those relationships and the community. That's at the heart of it. And every building has people in it who are beautiful, and they bring gifts together. We have all of the gifts we need already existing in our schools. Right now, we have them. So we need to open up to new ways to see, new ways to hear. And you need, we have been working together for quite a long time now. And we've been so lucky to have the Ladysmith Secondary School as our home and our time here and making those connections, as you say, to the Staminas First Nation and to the community members. In fact, just last week, an elder came into our class uninvited. An elder just came and said, I don't know why I'm here. I just showed up here. And
that's fantastic.
Right? And that's our dream. That's our dream. And Ray Harris, he came in and talked to us about his life and told us stories. And how beautiful is that? So I think that would be my answer, is just start working together in your buildings. Yeah, offer safe spaces for people to bring their gifts. Mm-hmm. What do you say, Yatestinat?
Otha Ita Squall, Mr. Taylor, learning how to be as one. You know, we talk about how with Coast Salish teachings, we learn everything hands-on. We're learning how to accept one another without having that book in front of us, pen and pencil, and we're learning how to sit in a circle where we can be one-on-one with our students, all of them all at once. We always say we're at one when we're in our circle. I've witnessed some of our classes now sit in circles before they do their presentations, and how close they get to their teachers and start trusting and believing in everything that they're giving them. And I always tell them that all the teachers are giving part of their gifts to you, for you to carry and own those gifts now. So we have to learn to accept a Coast Salish way of learning, a Coast Salish way of teaching. We repeat all our teachings, and not to be afraid of everything that's new to us. It's new to our kids to have all these gifts for them to use. It's new for teachers to see and see the kind of results that you can get. Our kids are starting to walk with their heads up high and starting to use their language. And it's something that it's new. Our teachers have to learn how to accept that and carry and feed off of all that good feelings of our kids starting to put their heads up high, seeing our elders walk into the building because our kids go home and talk about what's happening in our school. They want to know. They're not afraid to walk into into this institution. They call our school an institution, but we're going to take that name away. We're going to take that name away with the way that we're teaching. And we want our teachers to start feeling that, all of our teachers to start feeling that beautiful way of teaching, making sure that we start accepting all of the Coast Salish ways of learning. It's a beautiful thing.
Those are beautiful words, Mandy. Can we reserve a spot on the agenda just to hear from Mandy every week to get ourselves grounded and centered in our work? Because I'm ready for the next week. So yeah, hi Sepka to both of you, and Dave and your staff for supporting this wonderful program. And I can't go away without giving a quick shout out to the Ladysmith Improv team. Congratulations, Mr. Taylor. So wonderful stuff going on at LSS. So that's just uplifting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, so LSS is my my school as a trustee, but it was my school as a student, and it was my school as a teacher. And I went to visit Mandy, and we talked about land-based learning and what was going on there. And I said, like, you guys have got to present to the board because this ties in with so many of our goals, like a reconciliation with our environmental sustainability. It's just so incredibly beautiful what you're doing. And you know, I just want to say, I never got to tell you when you brought the students up last year, Bill, to VIU in Skapstad. And I know Mandy mentioned that our students are walking with their head up high. And I have to tell you that I witnessed that in Skapstad. And I can see that the culture is in their heart. It's embedded in their heart, and how they carried themselves, conducted themselves. It was, it's incredible. And I have one question I've always wanted to ask Bill this, but Bill, you and I go way back. I wanted to know, like, when did you start to get so interested in embracing Coast Salish culture like you have? Like, when did that happen?
I guess moving here to Vancouver Island and to Ladysmith, and talking to people like Pearl Harris and Roxanne Harris and way back, right? Way back, and them just encouraging this idea that we could start to walk together and there could be more of a Coast Salish feel to our building. A good friend of mine is Dr. Brian Tom from the University of Victoria. And he has been with me on this entire journey, helping me, guiding me. He was part of the Hul'qumi'num Treaty Group for years, right, as one of the head negotiators for treaties locally. And he is still connected with us. He still Zooms in and teaches our class. So that's been with me over the past 25 years of my time, well, 28 years at Ladysmith. And my wife did her master's thesis on treaties up north in the province of BC, and she's a research librarian at VIU, and so her work is instrumental too. And I just have so many people around me who are, oh man, I've got intelligent people around me helping me keep my eyes open to what's here, and then to have met Yutastinan and being able to work with her over these years, inspiring, just incredibly inspiring. Does that answer it?
Yeah, it does. And both of you and your team, thank you so much for the presentation. Mandy and Tesselmut, you know that I'm a big fan of yours. And I really hope we can take what you guys are doing and maybe be able to offer that as a 4-credit course, a BA course or something for students as we move into the requirement, the Indigenous requirement. Thank you so much, Aichka. And I see Mr. Saywell has lit up the board, so I think he wants to say some things.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I just wanted to add my voice as well. Thanks, Dave and Mandy, Bill, and Gina in the background. I think Gina's hosted me at least a couple times this year with their grade 8 Hul'qumi'num class, helping me sharpen my Hul'qumi'num. But all of you, thank you so much for sharing a little glimpse. Hey, Gina, a little glimpse of the great work that's happening at LSS. The most important work that is happening in the school district. And thank you for teaching us how to walk together. And you are an example of the good work that can happen when you build community and trust each other. So, Sepka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saywell. Can I just ask one more question? I just wanted to ask, how many non-Indigenous students do you have that are taking your classes? Do you have non-Indigenous students taking your classes and participating?
Yeah, we do. Right now, the number is lower than in the past, but anywhere from 25% to 50% of our students over the 7 years we've been running the program.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, we try to have a nice balance there so that the kids can see people walking together.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gina, as well. Sorry I didn't acknowledge, but your work is fantastic. And I love that transcribing the play into Hul'qumi'num is just incredible. So thank you very much. Okay, Chantal, Trustee Morvey has said, Naomi has been singing your praises and I'm so grateful for all coming to share this with us. More than anything, thank you for sharing your gifts with our students and staff and encouraging others to do the same. And Leanne, Trustee Lee says, thank you for sharing the magic that is happening in your school. Yeah, and Trustee Pellegrin says, thank you, absolutely wonderful. So thank you again. I think we're going to move on, and it looks like Assistant Superintendent Poulin is up to do a presentation, or lead one.
Thank you so much, and through the
Thank
chair,
you.
just a great job to both of our schools tonight, so thank you for that. I have the pleasure of introducing Diane McGonigal, who is our district principal of early learning and care, a new position for us, who's going to be sharing some updates around early years. So welcome, Diane, and I will put your presentation up on the screen for you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me here tonight. As Jackie said, I'm new in this position starting in mid-September. And as you know, the Ministry of Education became the Ministry of Education and Childcare back in April of 2022. And so they have, to use that saying, put the money where their mouth is. So they've put some funding into districts to make sure that the early learning and care piece can happen. And so that we are stretching down to just newborn, 0 years old, all the way up in our education system. And the early learning or early years in childcare, the framework fits into the objective of improving opportunities for early intervention and learning under our board goal of continuous improvement in support for students with diverse abilities and disabilities, Indigenous and overall student population on student achievement. Early learning and care is grounded by these two documents. First off, the early learning framework, which was revised in 2019 to include up to age 8. Prior to that, it was up to kindergarten. And this document helps to connect the early years to our primary years and really focuses on seeing the child as capable and full of potential. The early learning framework is based on 4 living inquiries: well-being and belonging, others, materials in the world, communication and literacies, and identities, social responsibility, and diversity. And the second document is the Play Today document, and it really outlines the extent of learning through play. It has the continuum there from child-directed to educator-guided to educator-directed play, all the types of play, and the value and benefits of play. Play is very vital and should have a central role in children's development and in school in those early years. I'm going to outline some of the parts of this portfolio as we're working to develop our early learning and care plan for the district and our scope and sequence. I'm sure you've heard of our Strong Start facilities. We have 8 across our school district, and we currently have about 1,200 children registered. And they choose a home Strong Start, but they can visit any of the Strong Starts in the district. Something else that we do is we host Ready, Set, Learn events for 4- and 5-year-olds. And these pictures up on the screen are from the events held so far this year, as well as a couple of Strong Start pictures. So far, we've held 3 Ready, Set, Learn events, and we have had 184 children participate in those events. They were held in schools throughout November and then January and February. And after spring break, we're moving our Ready, Set, Learn events outdoors to some neighborhood parks as far north as we go into Lantzville at Huddlestone Park. And as far south as our district goes, we're hosting one down in Ladysmith at Transfer Beach, as well as 2 other ones in central Nanaimo. Another part of the portfolio is supporting Welcome to Kindergarten events and the gradual entry planning for kindergarten. And a couple of years ago, our district developed our own Welcome to Kindergarten play packs. And there's a picture here of the different play packs, including the little loose parts kit and the locally developed books. One of the books includes places all around Nanaimo for families to go. And these play packs have been shared, and other districts have asked permission to be able to use them, use the template for their books, and have made their own books. And that's both districts on the island and off the island. And this year I've been looking for some partnership activities to make the Welcome to Kindergarten bags. And we have Learning Alt students coming once a week with a child and youth family support worker. And we also have some students from our district skills class coming with the community inclusion youth worker. our early years team, which includes district learning coordinator Amy Blow, as well as Sue DeRosa, who is vice principal at Bayview and holds 0.3 of a early learning portfolio. We're also involved in a number of inquiry projects. Changing Possibilities for Young Children brings together teachers, Strong Start facilitators, and community childcare providers or other agencies that we are connected with. And they have interactive learning sessions that use the BC Learning Framework, and they happen monthly all over the course of the year. And they pick a wonder child that they follow, and they observe and take notes on and document that child throughout the year. We also have, Changing Possibilities has happened in the district for about 5 years now. Brand new this year, we have a project, Say to KT, which is strengthening early years to kindergarten transitions. And we are working with the Vancouver Island Multicultural Society and working on supporting the transition for newcomers into kindergarten. And when we met with some newcomer families, one of their big wonders about kindergarten is food and what to bring and what kinds of food is acceptable, and if there's we could have hot food and all those kinds of questions. So we're developing a brochure that we will put in the Welcome to K bags that's all around what to bring for lunch and what to bring for snack, and answering some of those questions for families. And also we're going to adjust it so that ELL teachers in the district could use it for families that might be newcomers to a school where their children are a little bit older than kindergarten. And we're also working on having some open houses at our Strong Start facilities that are just for newcomer families. The parents that we talk to, it's a big step for them to go to something new in the community on their own. And they both came to Strong Starts with friends and talked about the value of our Strong Start centers in helping them to understand how schools work here in Nanaimo. And finally, we also have the ECPN, which is Early Childhood Pedagogy Network. Amy Blow is a member of that, and she works with teachers across the district on different inquiry projects. So the pictures on the right of the screen are all with a couple of kindergarten classes from Hammond Bay and a project that they're doing out in the forest and learning relationship building and getting along out in that environment. For the early years, we have a number of community partnerships. There's a Nanaimo Early Years Partnership that holds some family wellness hubs twice a year. So there was a picture there of us in September. There's also the Ladysmith Early Years partnership, and we recently held a Healthy Start to Learning fair in Ladysmith. And we also partner with an Island Early Years network, and our district is hosting the conference for the Island Early Years next October at Wellington. We also, for our Ready, Set, Learn events, we've been partnering with Pacific Care and City of Nanaimo, District of Lanceville, and the town of Ladysmith. And the other part of the portfolio is all around childcare. And I know Secretary Treasurer Mark Walsh has done a couple of recent updates for you. We have 10 sites currently underway. Forest Park should be opening very soon once we get licensing and all the fire regulations and building permits and everything sorted out. But we're hoping that it will open later in March or in April. And followed by that, shortly afterwards, will be Chase River and Ladysmith Primary. And these are some photos here. I saw them on social media as well about the site at Rock City and how it's grown just from the September startup to this past weekend when the portable that was built at the Woodland site by our school district staff and students was moved over here as part of the project. Also working on the before and after school pilot project, which Mark Walsh has updated you about as well. And also work with our childcare providers. 24 of our 27 elementary schools do have childcare offered in them before and after school. So part of my job is to connect with the childcare providers. And I've been completing an environmental scan of childcare and early learning in our district for the ministry, and have been meeting one-on-one with those childcare providers. So that's been very interesting. Some of them have been in our schools for about 20 years. So it's neat talking to them and hearing the history of the growth and the changes in childcare here in Nanaimo. And that is the end of my presentation. There's a couple of pictures there. One is from a Ready Set Learn event and one from the ECPN work in the forest out near Hammond Bay School. And I'm happy to answer any questions that may have come up from this presentation or the information sheet that I provided.
Thank you so much, Diane. That was a really detailed presentation. Do we have any questions? Oh, Chantel Morvay, Trustee Morvay.
I thank you through the chair, Diane. There's you've got a big file, and you've got a lot going on, and there's a lot of moving parts, and I thank you for all the hard work you've been putting in. This is, you know, a big task, and now, you know, adding on the before and after school care, which is really exciting. Another thing that we're very excited to get. Thank you for doing that work. What I'm going to ask is actually an experience that we had when we were in Surrey. My kids started there, and Strong Start, I mean, is just, you know, near and dear to my heart. That was a huge help for us as a family, but I saw that as well for other young families that would come in and stuff like that, that needed that connection with everyone. And we have 8 centers here. That is so fantastic. I'm wondering too, like you spoke about the immigrants that come in that are at the Ready Set Learn, and they have that connection, the strengthening the connection in the transition to K. I'm wondering, could you just talk a little bit about what happens if, like, the transition for children who may have disabilities or unidentified, of course, or something like that? Is there I know that there's things that come into play sometimes that help with that transition for them as well. Could you speak on that a little bit more, Diane? If you have a little bit to share with us, I know people would love to know more what's there, but thank you. I don't know if that question was very clear, but I hope you understood.
Yeah. Were you referring to newcomers, children, or children in general that might need some additional support?
Children in general. Yes.
Yes. So along with Director, I'm not sure the whole title, but Carrie Steele and Kirsten Funky Robinson, every year they hold an all kids go to school session for families in conjunction with the Child Development Center, and Early Years has been involved in the past as well. And so prior to COVID, those of course were held in person. Over COVID in Zoom, and they're trying to decide now, our event's coming up early in April, whether or not it'll be over Zoom or in person. There's benefits to both, and one of the things for over Zoom is the families don't need to find childcare, maybe to be able to come to a meeting. So the supports in the district are sort of explained there, and they are also outlined for families on our website. On the registration, there's a coming to kindergarten, and then it talks through the different supports available, and there's a transition tool that can be filled out and those sorts of things. So it's a big part of helping all families get ready for that transition piece into kindergarten.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that with everyone. That's good information for them to have. Thank you. And thank you for all your hard work. It's really integral. Thank you.
You're muted, Naomi.
Trustee Pellegrin says, Diane, this is very impressive. Thank you for this detailed presentation and the information sheet. Love the custom play kits for kindergartners and the lunch sheet ideas for newcomers. Lastly, it is extra special that the portable was built with students as well. Thank you for sharing that, Trustee Pellegrin. It doesn't look like there's any other questions. I'll just wrap up by saying I looked through the package we were given and I was just so impressed with all the community connections you have with organizations and governmental organizations as well. It's very impressive. It's just so much more complex. I think about when I first started teaching and a student just arrived, you know, September 8th, and but there's so much more that needs to be done, and you guys are doing the work and you're doing a great job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more thing is Trustee Brozovic just said, Diane, amazing work as always. Everything Leanna said, so glad you're in this role. Yeah. So, Heitsepka. And I'm going to turn this back to Deputy Superintendent Tate.
Thank you, Chair. And if that's okay, my portion will moving into 8.2, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to echo what the chair has said. Diane's been in the role only since the beginning of this year, and it is a new role to us, a new role to everyone, and it's a massive sort of purview and portfolio, and we are very lucky to have Diane. It's like she's been in the role for 20 years, right? The way she operates. And then I'll just take a quick moment to say, you know, in the busyness of the day in these roles, you know, going from meeting to meeting to meeting, when we have all of these folks that we've just had presenting on what's happening in our schools and what's happening with our early years and all of the beautiful things, it's just so energizing and hopeful to, you know, from my office to be, you know, experiencing this vicariously. So I'm blown away by all of the presenters this evening. So thank you for that. I'll move into, and I know you've had a lot of information kind of coming at you. So I will sort of be as overarchingly concise as I can be, but I'm just taking a little bit of an opportunity this evening to share with you a little bit about our student learning survey and the phenomenon that is this student learning survey. So it used to be called the Student Satisfaction Survey. And it's a ministry data tool that's administered across the province in all of our school districts, and it's been running since 2001. And it surveys students in grades 4, 7, 10, and 12 about their school experiences. It's also open to parents and to school staff as well. And as you know, the survey covers a range of topics and attempts to provide a bit of an overarching picture of, you know, students primarily and families' educational experience. Yeah, it's got a variety of questions that cover a variety of themes, and as you're probably familiar and aware, there are a ton of questions. It's quite long at every grade level. So the data I'm going to show you here today, and most of which is in your package that you've had a look at already, it's just a small sampling of the student learning survey data. And the questions that I'm showing you today are questions that we as a district have chosen. We've chosen a handful of questions from the student learning survey to incorporate into our own NLPS data dashboard that we are in the process of building. So that the data that you'll see is a sampling. It also corresponds with the questions we've chosen to include as our own data. And with that, it cross-references with the data that we are required to provide for to the ministry in the form of our Framework for Enhancing Student Learning, or our FESL. So lastly, before I get rolling and showing you some pictures and such, I just want to say that the data from many or almost all of the ministry sources come to districts in the form of our How Are We Doing report. So you'll see those. They don't come out quite yet. They're a couple of months away, but most of the data, and it's aggregated and disaggregated, and it's academic and student learning survey and transition rates and completion rates, etc. All of that comes to districts and will come to you in the form of a How Are We Doing report. Okay, so this is a quick look at our participation rates for the district, and you can see that here. Hopefully, you can see my big fluorescent green cursor there. We have 70 for last year. So the data I'm giving you, of course, is for last year. The student learning survey for this year is currently open at the moment. So it's open from about January to April. And we get weekly participation reports that come to the superintendent. And those come directly to learning services, and our assistant SUPs and others support schools the best way that we can to get them to complete the survey. And you can see, in my opinion, the strong results of that we have a very good participation rate for the student learning survey. And you can see there we're well above the provincial average. So on this slide, you're looking at just different graph and numerical representations of our participation rates. Okay. So the first bit of data that I'll highlight is a question, and it's a question that features across all of the 4 grade levels, as do the remaining questions that I'm going to show you. We decided to choose questions that were represented at every single grade level. Lots of them aren't, lots of them are at different grade levels, so it sort of narrows down the number and variety of questions that we can choose to represent in our data dashboard. So first question is, are you learning about local First Nations while you're at school? And what I've got here for you, and as I will show you for the remainder of the slides, are at each of the 4 grade levels. You'll see 4 bars generally, there could be fewer. There's positive in green, and that means all of the time or most of the time. So students choose one of those 2 all of the time or most of the time, and that aggregates into positive in the green. Neutral are the students who chose sometimes. So sometimes we're learning about local First Nations, and that's the bluish gray bar. Red is for negative, and negative encapsulates almost never or never. And the last bar is don't know, which is self-explanatory, and that is consistent throughout the remainder of the slides. Okay, and the next question is asking around whether students are being critical thinkers. And critical thinking is part of the BC curriculum, and it sits under this sort of overarching title or category called core competencies, which include a variety of ways that students learn, as opposed to the curricular competencies. So, one of the areas of the core competencies is around the different kinds of thinking that we are teaching and hopefully learning to do as learners. And for critical thinking, there's the array of grades 4, 7, 10, and 12, again, as to whether they believe they're being learning how to critically think. And at school, I am learning how to care for my mental health. And you can see a bit of a difference between grades 4 and 7, where the green tends to stand out quite a bit more, green and maybe some gray there. And if we look at grades 10 and 12, we can see that almost never or never am I learning to care for my mental health. We see the red bar looking a little more prominent here. So a bit of a difference between elementary and secondary in this regard. So next, and the first of the 4 questions that we are required to report on to the ministry in the framework for enhancing student learning is whether school is a place where you feel like you belong. And generally fairly consistent trend across all of the grade levels, with the bulk or the majority sitting in the yes almost all the time or most of the time. Students are feeling like they have a sense of belonging. The next is, do you feel safe at school? The second of our FESL questions. And the green bar, the positive, all the time, most of the time, features quite prevalently. And this is one of the questions, one of many in the student learning survey that we are not able to disaggregate. In fact, it is an example of one of the questions that is held in the database as anonymous. There are a number of questions that are like this. This is one example. Another example is, I believe, the drug and alcohol use, for example, at the secondary level with the grade 10 and 12 questions. And these are intended to be anonymous in the hopes that students will be as honest as possible. And then there is no way really to mine down on a smaller level, individual level with these questions. The ministry is really attempting to have kids answering as honestly as possible with no fear of sort of being discovered, if you will. Next asks, how many adults do you think care about you at your school? It's the third of the FESL questions. The options for the students and their responses, they can choose, there's 3 options that are 2 or more adults care about me. So you can choose 2, they can choose 2, 3, or 4 or more adults, and that aggregates into the positive green bar. Neutral, where the neutral response indicates that 1 adult, I know that there's 1 adult that cares about me at school, and of course negative is none. And then yellow is don't know. And just shifting it up a little bit, I've sort of disaggregated this one a little bit. So at the grade 7 level on the left, we've got all students responding positively, 59%. And then we've got grade 7 all, and then grade 7 Indigenous students, for example, are responding that as 69% of Indigenous students are feeling that they have 2 or more adults that care about them at school. And then just for another glance at the grade 12, so same question, all students, grade 12, positively 78%, and then grade 12 Indigenous students comes in at 18 or 88%. Sorry. Just another way to look at the data. Okay, and lastly, of all the slides, of all the tables here, and the last of the 4 FESL questions is, do you feel welcome at your school? And we were looking here at grade 4 data. So grade 4, all students, the positive comes in primarily, it's quite large at about 77%. Grade 4 Indigenous students is coming in at 74%, and then grade 4 students with a designation coming in at 73%. So when we're looking at disaggregating this data for Indigenous students, we can disaggregate into Indigenous and non-Indigenous. And for students with a designation, we can do every individual designation. We can do all the designations or any variation in between. And so what I have for you here was, as I just sort of aggregated all of the students with designations for a total of 73% that indicated that they're feeling welcome at their school all the time or most of the time. So that's just a sampling. This data can go on for days and days and days. We can we can disaggregate by gender, Indigenous or non-Indigenous, and then designation. That's where that sort of ends. And then we can go by grade level. And of course, at schools, they can do the same for their school data. So I hope that gives you a nice sort of at least an initial or overarching sense of the student learning survey. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my time with you, that a more fulsome report, if you will, is made available in the form of the How Are We Doing report. So thank you, Chair. I think you're still muted.
I will get this figured out one day. Thank you very much, Deputy Superintendent Tate. That was great information. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. I have one though. You had showed us the graph with the mental health, and you mentioned, you know, in the graph it's obvious that there's a big shift in high school, and we know the teenage years are really challenging. I'm just wondering, do we offer, like, I'm thinking how outdoor education could also be connected with mental health as well, right? But I'm wondering, do we have any, are there any courses actually being taught in high school to students about mental health and how to take care of your mental health? Like,
yeah, that's a great question. I'll ask Assistant Superintendent Balcom to jump on. If Director Funky Robinson's here as well, I'm sure she's welcome to jump on. But Dawn, are you okay in taking a stab at that one?
No, yeah, absolutely. And through the chair, when you're saying, is there a course specifically that teaches mental wellness? There's not a course, although obviously that would be a great course for students to have. And I think one of the challenges, especially through the pandemic, is that mental health issues have really been spotlighted, and there's going to be a bit of a lag between the need for students, as Deputy Superintendent Tate showed in that response, right? Students in grade 7 feel like their mental wellness issues are being addressed, and then as you get to grade 10 and grade 12, students are saying, no, my needs are not being met. And I think those responses, if we looked back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, those numbers would have been much more positively reported by grade 12 students. But you know, last year they're saying, no, I have some mental health needs that are not being addressed at school. And because there is no specific curricular area that addresses that at the grade 12 level in particular, because as we mentioned before, students take their English language arts requirement is the only common course that all of our grade 12 students are. So some of those students would say, you know, I'm taking a psychology course, which really helps me understand a little bit deeper. Some students would be in an outdoor education course where they'd say, I get outside and I'm active, and my mental health improves because of that experience. So no, I think that's something that we need to address as a system, is how do we address the needs of our mental health at the high school level, knowing that there's not a curricular area currently that addresses that.
thank you very much. I just actually had one observation that I was really pleased to see. I mean, really, really happy to see, was the question around like the connection with one adult or two or more adults, but it was the Indigenous response. That was just really so wonderful to see. Just says a lot about the work that we're doing in this district, you know. Thank you very much. And I just see Trustee Pellegrin says, I really like these slides. Such a great feeling to see more students answering yes than not with sense of belonging, and having a safe adult that cares about them. Thank you. Great job. So yes, much appreciated. Thanks very much, Laura.
Thank you, Dawn.
Moving on, correspondence referred from the regular board meeting. Didn't seem to be any from there. Number 10 was unfinished business, and number 11, we have new business. So trustees, as we begin this, the item on new business is a notice of motion by Trustee Robinson. Before he presents it, This is a first for our board here, this board. So I'd like to call upon our parliamentarian to walk us through what a notice of motion is and how our policy addresses the issue.
Good evening and thank you, Chair. Yeah, just for so everyone is aware, the notice of motion, the concept of notice of motion is to essentially bring the board's awareness of an item to be brought up, so folks are able to prepare, etc. And specifically in our policies, if we go to policy 2.6, which is board governance, under 3.1, it talks about meeting agendas. And so one of the ways that an item may be placed on the agenda is in the following ways. So this is, we thought, what a good opportunity to indicate how trustees get items on the agenda in addition to the work plan. So one is identifying a trustee, identifying the chair of the board or standing committee no later than 13 days prior to the meeting. But then the other one is by notice of motion by a trustee at the previous applicable standing committee or regular meeting of the board. So what would happen is trustee comes forward, says, I'm going to be giving a notice of motion on here's the notice of motion, and then it would be placed on the appropriate committee or board agenda following that. So that's where it comes from, and that's the purpose. So thank you.
Okay, so Trustee Robinson, where are you?
I'm here, Naomi.
All right.
So, Hachka, thank you for this. The notice of motion will read something similar to this. And thank you, by the way, Mark Walsh, for introducing a notice of motion. I think it's worthwhile for the attendees and members to get the parliamentarian aspect and how it works. So thank you. Here we go. Notice of motion as follows. Whereas students of School District 68 are the most impacted on decisions, yet the least represented at the Board of Education, it is moved that the School District 68 Education Committee have a robust discussion on student inclusion and engagement with respect to student representation on the Education Committee, and produce a recommendation for the Board of Education for implementation for student inclusion and representation no later on the Education Committee no later than 120 days of the motion passing. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so Trustee Robinson, I'm wondering, that's a very long notice of motion. I'm wondering if you could not type that in the chat, because I couldn't keep up with what you had actually typed.
Sure. What I can do is I can actually just copy paste and put it. Bear with me a moment. My technical skills from one computer to the other are not perfect, so bear with me. I may have a challenge going from one to the other, but I'm going to try now.
And Chair?
Yes.
Perhaps I can suggest, rather than including the whereas in the notice itself, is that the motion, the action of the board that the committee would be debating, I'm assuming at the April meeting, and then the rationale would be provided upon the seconding.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't really understand. Mark, can you explain that again?
Sure. So the purpose tonight, the motion is being brought forward to let the board, essentially the Education Committee, know that this is going to be an item on the agenda next time.
Okay.
This
right.
motion will be under new business on the April agenda of the Education Committee. And so the action itself is the important part for the motion. So the board shall do X. So in this case, the board shall debate representation, or I can't quite remember the wording. And then when it comes up at the education committee and there's a second, then the whereas and the reasoning behind the motion
So
would
right
come
now,
forward.
do we just approve the motion to bring it to the next committee meeting? Is that what we're doing?
There's no need, there's no need for a seconder. There's no need for the board to approve that to come on to the next agenda, because
Okay.
that's what our policy allows for, is either a trustee can say, hey, you know, Chair Bailey, I want this issue to arise, or alternatively through a notice of motion. And so the notice of motion, obviously the public will understand that they'll see
Okay.
that on the next agenda in April.
Okay, so we just leave it as is now then.
Yeah, so the minutes should show that Trustee Robinson brought forward a notice of motion under new business. Here's what the motion's going to be. Then under new business at the April Education Committee, this will be on there.
Okay.
And then if there's a seconder, at the April meeting, the board then would debate it.
Okay.
Or the committee, sorry, would debate it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. All right, are there any questions from trustees on this? Okay, question period. Do we have any questions? No. So can I get a motion to adjourn? It looks like we're done. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, Leanna Lee's motion to adjourn and Tom Rokeby seconds it. All right, thank you very much. Have a great evening.